Hello, and welcome to the final segment of my myth busting series. This is myth number 7, and I just decided to add it because something's been on my mind and it's very disturbing. A couple of months ago, I was listening to a podcast that was an interview with an OBGYN, and it is the woman who really is in the forefront of trying to put an end to vaginal steaming. She has some very clearly strong feelings about vaginal steaming, to the point where in this interview she went as far as to say that vaginal steam proponents are predators to women. They are preying on women. And to me, this instantly is reminiscent of the witch hunts, to be honest, because vaginal steaming is a therapeutic modality that can actually heal some of the things that she, as a trained OBGYN, is unable to address. So hearing her say that was really an eye-opener, and it made me start thinking even more about how much we are enculturated and institutionalized, brainwashed, pick your word, but somebody who attends medical school for as long as she has gets inundated with a belief system and a way of looking at things and a way of looking at people. And she's internalized it to the point where even being a woman with a womb, with an opportunity to even try vaginal steaming, she has chosen instead excuse me, to follow the party line, so to speak, of the medical establishment and ridicule and try to put a stop to anything that doesn't fall within her category of what's acceptable. And during my own lifetime, acupuncture certainly was not acceptable in the 80s and in the 90s, and it just started sort of coming into practice and acceptability and even covered by insurances in the last 20 years. Similar for chiropractic. Those were things seen as snake oil salesmen and quackery. So again, this is very disturbing to me that a woman is calling someone like myself and so many of the other people who are way more trained than me and who are working with people with very serious issues and seeing them be resolved, to call somebody like that a predator is very serious. And there are people who approach vaginal steaming in different ways, and there are some of the ways that I'm not 100% comfortable with. I've seen people who really are just entering it as sort of a hot new fad. And personally, I find this a little problematic, and it could lead to issues. And if somebody has issues, then they go to their doctor and they say, oh, well, I was vaginal steaming and this happened. And then that's where a lot of these, this domino effect happens. And then suddenly this amazing modality gets scrutinized, and people are looking for all of the problems, and it gets shut down before it even has a chance to really redeem itself and to show itself for what it is. So there are people who have these different approaches. Then there are people who approach it from a much more deep ancestral wisdom approach, and that is much less clinical than, say, the training that I'm doing through Steamy Chicken with Kelly Garza. Her approach is much more clinical, and I think with the goal of one day attaining respect within the medical community that we live within. Pros and cons of that, of course, is that it will come with more limitations and more restrictions if that was to happen. Back to the other folks who approach this from ancestral wisdom and a way to really connect with your body and listen to your body, I fall kind of somewhere in between the clinical and that. It is a passion of mine to pursue the stories that we carry in our pelvis, because as you may have seen in some of my writings and might see in future writings as well as presentations, I do believe that the disconnect that female-bodied folk have with their womb, with their pelvis, with the incredible creativity, both on a physical level and on a manifestation level, has been severed for so long. And I believe that it mirrors the severing of all of humanity, of all bodies, from the source of all creativity and creation, which is Mother Earth. So the womb represents this source of creation, and it's a metaphor for the source of all things that are created here on this planet, which is Mother Earth. So you sever yourself from the intelligence and the wisdom that's carried in that part of your body, and all of humanity gets severed from the connection and the understanding of the interdependence. So that might be a little out there for you, but something to just, drop in that pool of intellect that you have and let it simmer a little bit, see what you think. But bottom line is, it's very disturbing that somebody would look at pelvic steaming and those who support it as predators. We are not predators, and we have a lot of educating to do moving forward. Thank you. This has been Womb Wellness Wednesday number 2, myth busting, and I will see you again next week.